Hey friends, how's it going? I'm back to do a video this week, which is actually a bit of a strange video because it's not part of my PhD vlog series, which I'm sure a lot of you are pretty sick of seeing me post at this point. And it's not anything to do with VCV rag or electron gear or anything like that. It's for a new device that my PhD supervisors, Andrew Brown and John Ferguson, have developed. And it is this guy here. Let's see if I can just hold it up to the camera a little bit. It's basically a little drum machine. It's called the Beat Machine, I think. Let me just double check that really quick. Yes, the Beat Machine. This is the PCB version. There is another version, which I'll show on screen in a minute, which is more in like a sort of proper housing. But this is just the PCB version. It's still in development. It is definitely not released. It's definitely not a final version, and it's certainly not for sale. It is 100% in development. I'm not sure if they're gonna create a finished version, a commercial version, I should say. I think they are though, and I think they should, because it is very cool. There's no samples on this. It's all synthesis. There is 8 voices on it, 8 drum voices, all identical drum voices. So there's not like one for kick, one for snare, or anything like that. They're all identical. And there's a pretty wide range of sounds you can get out of this. It has a built-in reverb even. So it's pretty fully featured, has a sequencer, has generative sequencing in it. For such a small, little, unassuming device, it actually packs a bit of a punch. So I thought today we would just sort of run through specifically more the sound design stuff aspects of it, and sort of some of the generative stuff. I'm still pretty new with this, so I'm still getting to grips with it. As I will say in the video later, that some aspects of this I think could easily be improved with just a nice industrial designed shell with labeling on it. Because at the moment we've got these inner buttons and outer buttons and these knobs, and even though they are labeled, it can get a little bit tricky to sort of figure your way around when everything kind of looks the same. If it was in a box with clear labeling, I think that would just make things simpler, but that kind of goes without saying. Anyway, without further ado, let's listen to this and let's explore the sounds it can make. All right, let's go. All right, so here I am with the Beat Machine. The camera's pretty zoomed in on it, so it might look a little bit grainy, but it is just a small device. As you can see from my hands here, it's quite small. That's not necessarily a problem. It just is what it is. And you can tell, of course, that there's no casing for this, no housing for it. There is a sort of prototype version that does have a case, like a wooden box case. I'll show a little picture of that right now on the screen. But this is just the PCB version. I'm not really sure what the grand plans for this are at this stage. I haven't really asked my supervisors, but I suspect this is going to be put into production at some point. They are actively updating the firmware, adding new features, changing the way things work. So they're just troubleshooting things at this point. And I expect they're going to, put it into production, make a sort of standardized shell for it or case. But for the moment, this is it. This is the one I have access to anyway. Let's just have a quick listen to it. I'm going to do that by pushing this little inner ring button, which is E. You can see that there are, well, I hope you can see, that there are little letters on these buttons, these little inner buttons, which match up to these LEDs on the internal ring. And on the external ring, there are 16 buttons, which are numbered 1 to 16. We'll get to how all of that works, but E is our play button. So I'm just going to press play, and by default, when it loads up, it will just have an auto-generated pattern, which I'll come to in a sec, but let's just listen to it. So it's a pretty cool sounding little device. It's no samples, it's all synthesis based. It's FM synthesis, or at least there is some FM synthesis in there, but it is also fairly standard kind of drum synthesis, like subtractive drum synthesis with like a pitch envelope, that kind of thing. But I can hit this button here, D, right next to E, and it will just generate a new pattern every time. I can do it again. And it just kind of, it does follow some rules, so it's not complete a garbled mess every time you push it, but it is pretty random. I've certainly never run into a exact copy. It's always different. Anyway, so that's how we play. That's how we generate new patterns. You can, of course, create your own patterns. I'm pretty new to this device, so I'm going to be sort of figuring it out a little bit as I go. I have played with it a bit. I do understand some of the concepts, but it is, I wouldn't say it's like overly complicated, but especially because it's just a PCB board, and there are some button combinations. It's the sort of thing where once you get familiar with it, you'll be really fast on it. But at the beginning, there might be a little bit of a learning curve. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Electron devices, which anybody who looks at any of my videos on my channel will know that I have been using Electron devices for, God, probably over 10 years now. Yes, definitely over 10 years, probably about 12 years. And they have a lot of button combination, kind of hidden menu kind of thing. This is not as complicated as them, but it does have some of that stuff. So let's look at that for a sec. The first thing I want to kind of do is just go with one of these standard beats, like this, for example, and just stick with that, and then just tweak the sounds as I go, because we can adjust the synthesis of every single sound, and there are 16, sorry, not 16, there are 8 parts on it. 8 sound sources. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is use the button H, which is this one here. And we can also use G to mute different parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push play and I'm going to mute all the parts except for the kick drum. So I'll hold this and then I'm going to, let me just find out where I am. Yep, there we go. Oh, there we go. That's what I meant to do. So if you hold G, where are we? Where's 9? There it is. If you hold G, 9 to 16 is mutes, whereas if 1 to 8 is like selecting the part. So what I'm going to do is select 1, which is here, and then I'm going to double click on H. And that's going to allow me to tweak the controls here, like this one, for example. Or this one. So this first knob here is our oscillator balance. So it's the balance between the oscillator and the noise. So we can get that sort of clicking at the start if we want with some noise, and there's more of that later in these other controls over here, but let's just go round in order. And the next we have a pitch control, which is exactly what you expect it to be. So we can go kind of high like that, or really low, or sort of mid-range. Let's just stay there for the moment. And then these two ones work kind of in tandem with each other. One is mod rate, the other is mod depth. And this is really where the FM aspect of this comes in. So I'm just gonna tweak these. All right, it's a little bit, it's not showing up as much as I want it to, but that's all right, we'll get there. The reason for that, I think, is we need to adjust the tone decay. So let's go up here. That's the noise decay. So let's just put that really low. So there we've got long tone decay. Let's try these ones again. So we can get some really crazy kind of metallic sounds. So the next thing I want to do is use G again, and let's unmute the sort of snare clap sound. And let's also select 2 and double click H again, and let's play around with the snare. Finding the pitch can be a little bit tricky if you want things to be in pitch with each other. Not sure exactly what's happening under the hood, but it might be nice, just a bit of patch note kind of thing, or critique, which I can pass on to my supervisors, but it might be nice if there was some kind of button combination where you could move from chromatic notes and smooth tuning outside of the semitones, because it kind of seems like it's locked to semitones at the moment, which is kind of great to get things in tune, but it might be nice if you had the option to sweep between them. Maybe that is an option and I'm just not fully aware of it yet, but let's keep going. So there's also this cutoff knob here. Well, that's the attack, sorry. That's the noise attack. Trying to get this back to being like a sharp attack. That'll do. And this one is the noise cutoff. Let's bring this. Back a bit. Cool. I mean, like, I'm just kind of playing around with this, messing with sound, seeing what I like, but, you know, I love a bit of sound design. So let's select track 3 now and go back to, actually no, let's go back to track 1 really quick, because I just want to dial back the release or the decay. Cool, and let's go back to track 3, double click H, and now let's, I also have to unmute. So 9, 10, 11, there we go. And let's go select track 3 again, double click H. Okay. also on this one. It's the same exact synth engine for every single voice. Maybe I'll dial this back a bit, and this back a bit. Cool. So the other cool thing about this is there's actually a reverb on board the machine, which is kind of unexpected that it's there, but I'm really glad that it is. I'm just looking at the manual at the moment just so I can sort of get the exact way of operating it. So, so I think it's B, this one. So let's hold B, and I'll just push play actually. And let's see if we can get some reverb in here. There we go. It's actually like a surprisingly nice reverb as well. Cool. So let's go back to G and unmute. Where are we up to? So let's unmute 12 and select 5, I think it is. Double click H. And let's see what we get. Huh, okay, maybe I'm on the wrong one. Maybe I should be on that one. Let's go here. And here. There we go. So it can get a little bit confusing. But I think that the main reason why it's confusing is I'm literally just looking at a circuit board with, and you know, there's little buttons on it. If it was a bit more, you know, had sort of plastic buttons in a shell with labels, this would be much easier to navigate because it is actually laid out quite logically. It's just sort of wrapping your head around it, and looking at it in this form is a little bit tricky. So if it was in, I've seen the, as you have seen as well, because I would have posted the picture, but the beat boxes, the sort of ones that come in the little shell, they don't have any labeling on them either, but they are a little bit more logical just by virtue of the fact that they are inside a case. But yeah, if it actually had some labeling on it, I think that this would be a super easy device to use. And even without that, it's still relatively easy. Let's keep tweaking. So I'll just, I still, yep. Let's change the pitch. Oh, I can't seem to get the note that I want. Also, I want this voice that I'm working on to be louder. So there is a way to do that. I just need to look at the manual really quick. So there is a way to do it. We just need to do a little bit of a button combination. Where are the levels? There we go. So mix A. So if we push the A button here, we should be able to control the levels. Let's try that. So it's voice 4, I believe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. Yep. Great. Much louder. Let's go back to double clicking H. Cool. Let's go back to 9. Oh, I just muted 9. I didn't want to mute it. I want to select 1. And let's make this kick drum a little bit more prominent. And let's go back to A and adjust some of these levels. So and 4. Cool. And back to 1. Back to tweaking. Now, let's try and get this. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Nice and bassy. Awesome. That's only 4 voices, you know, so you can get pretty crazy with it. And yeah, the synthesis is actually really simple. So, excuse me. What I'll just explain really quick is what's on each of these knobs. So when I go into sound edit mode by double clicking H, we've got the oscillator balance, so the balance between the sort of sine wave oscillator and the noise oscillator. Here we have the pitch, which is just the master pitch of that oscillator. Then we have mod rate and mod depth. So this is basically, I'm not exactly sure, like it's clearly like an LFO, as you can hear in that sort of wobbling, and it goes into audio rate, so you can get FM synthesis happening. But it almost seems like there's also kind of like a pitch envelope aspect to it, because a lot of these knobs, the full range of them, and this is not particularly clear in the documentation that I have, I don't think, but it's also not very clear to you guys viewing this, I don't think, that when I twist these knobs, there's a full range. So it's often in the middle is kind of like the neutral zone, and then like left will be like negative or positive. So in the case of this knob, which is, this knob, which is our attack knob, it sort of does some interesting stuff for the direction, depending on the direction you turn it. So let's move on to our next sound, and I'll kind of demonstrate that. Before I go on though, this is the filter, the noise cutoff filter, which I sort of demonstrated before. Then we have the attack here. And then we have tone decay, which is our kind of sine wave oscillator, and noise decay. So it is pretty simple synthesis, but as you can hear, you can get a pretty wide range of sounds out of this. So let's keep going. I'm going to push play again. Let's go to G, and I'll select, oh, what are we up to? So 9, 10, 11, 12, okay, so it's 13, I think now. So I've unmuted 13, I think. And then I'm going to select 5. Alright, I might have to mute some things because I've sort of lost track. Let's mute. There it is, with the sound we're working with. Let's adjust. Oh no. Alright, so what I've done here is I've forgot to double click H again, and so I'm in kind of the default mode, and in the default mode, these knobs do something else. So dial 1 is tempo, so the tempo of the pattern. Dial 2 is density, so how many hits are happening in that pattern. Then we've got evolve, which will sort of evolve the pattern. Swing, drive, filter, which is like a master filter, length, and then volume, master volume. So I've just adjusted the length here. And you can maybe see, maybe you can't. You'll be able to see it when I do this. So this is like tempo. You can see it sort of filling out the LEDs. So let's just double click H. I'll click, select 5, double click H. So I want to hear this sound pretty prominently. So I'm going to make the decay quite long. There we go. And I just want to make sure we hear it when I unmute everything else. So let's make this slower. Let's play with the density. Full density. Nothing, and then a little bit. So, as you can hear, this is probably going to be a really cool device for live performance. I think that's the entire point of this really, is it's really designed to encourage exploration and would be great for sort of experimental live performances. So you probably heard me mention just before that there is a drive knob on this, and let's dial 5 here. Let's listen to that. And then we have a filter on this one. Awesome, love that. So now that I've added this extra sound in, which is at 13 here, so that'll be 5 over here. I'm gonna hit G again to, actually no, I'll press play, hit G to select the voice, double click H. Okay, made a bit of a mistake again. Let's do this. Let's just hit. Just want to hear it on its own. So this is a good opportunity to play around with this attack knob here. Like it's a little bit... Oh, that's why. Because again, that's the filter. I need to double click H. Okay, now. So, let's shift this just to noise, or onto the noise side. And you can hear that noise has a slow attack on it. So let's go through this, the full range of this knob. So this is all the way to the right. So it's like if you go all the way to the right, it's like you've got a long release or a long sustain, I'm not sure. And more to the center, get this kind of clicky. And if we go to the left further, okay, so all the way to the left is this little, real short clicky. I'll bring the release up on it. And then all the way to the right, you get a slower attack. So maybe the attack is just a linear short attack to slow attack, whereas I feel like some of these knobs are actually a kind of a sweep into positive and negative values I could be wrong about that, but that seems like what's happening to me. So let's press play again. Select 5. I probably don't need to select again. It's already selected, I think. But double click H. All right, interesting. Let's... I've also noticed, and this is probably just because it's, it's still in development, but sometimes the knobs, there's a little bit of a delay sometimes in that, just them catching up. And other times, I think the way these work as well is that their position will be set, and instead of jumping to the position when you touch the knob, you have to kind of find the position, and then once you reach the position it's set to, then you can start to adjust it. So it might be that is what I'm experiencing, but it definitely seems that sometimes I'll turn the knob, nothing happens, and then it will jump. And so it kind of feels like maybe there's a little bit of lag on some of these. But again, it's like, this is 100% a work in progress. I mean, I'm literally playing a PCB board right now. It's clearly not a finished product. Dial back that drive. Just a tiny bit of drive. Like this filter, for example. Full range, when you go all the way up, it seems like it has sort of a slightly high pass filter effect, and then when you go down, it's low pass. So. Cool. Let's unmute some more. Let's unmute, mute a few of these. So now we're listening to this one. Let's go back to 6. See, like, maybe I'm just doing something wrong, but sometimes it kind of just like cancels out itself. Like I've twisted the depth all the way up. Now I'm getting this. Then sometimes it seems to just reset itself. It's hard to say. Like now it's like not doing it anymore. But then I have to sort of do it again, so... Still some bugs, I think. Ooh. Oh, I like that. Let's see if we can make this one louder. There's our A button. There it is. So we're on... that one, or is it this one? It's that one. Let's unmute. Let's try a few other things. So for example, I can just keep generating. But the other thing I can do is I can generate the sounds as well. So I can generate Euclidean parts. I can generate yeah. I can also, there are also presets in this as well. So if I go to H again, I just hold H and so now we've gone to a preset. Or let's generate again. So this is almost a melody, which is pretty cool. I suspect that that's happening where each of the voices is pitched to different pitches and happening at different times, and we're kind of getting this almost chordal effect. So I'm slightly lost at this point, but that's okay. I know that this D button is definitely doing something. Where are we? D, generate Euclidean rhythm. Yes, that's what I've been doing. But we can also do click and like hold and then other buttons. But that's not 100% clear to me what's happening there, so I'll just avoid that. But let's go back here to select a different part. So we'll go to, where is it? Is it G? No, H. So let's select more presets. Maybe I can just reset it. I'll just click the reset button and we're back to the start. So let's try holding H. Oh, there we go. I think they're just on these alternate ones. Maybe not. I think there's only a few different presets is the thing. Like I said, work in progress. But if I just mute all but the kick drum here, and then we push the drive up a bit. And then if I select one and double click H, I just kind of want to highlight the synthesis because it is really simple synthesis, but I think it sounds excellent. And then we get a little bit more reverb. So if I go to B, well, here we are. Beautiful. So yeah, it's probably going to do it for this video. I just wanted to do a quick demo of this because it is really cool. And I'll almost certainly do another video of it on it in future when there's more firmware updates and as things progress. But I'm pretty excited about it. I think I look forward to seeing what it turns into and how it develops, really, because right now I think it's cool, but with some tweaks, a shell, some labeling, I think it could be really fun and very usable, both in the studio and in a live context. It's very kind of generative, and it does have a feel of like something which is slightly out of your control. Maybe some of that's because it's not finished and it's in this PCB, but I think that's by design. I think there is kind of this element of like wrangling a little bit with something that is kind of just doing its own thing, and that can be really cool. Yes, you can create your own rhythms. We have effectively like a TR style sequencer on here with these different buttons, 16 steps. You can get quite detailed with that stuff. I am not advanced enough with this yet to have fully demonstrated all of that stuff, but the main thing I wanted to look at, I should say, is the generative pattern sequencing and then also the synthesis itself. So maybe in a future video, I'll sort of look at doing a more sort of 808 style sequencing using these buttons. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.